was just days before Christmas, 1996. A quiet holiday cottage, deep in the hills of West Cork, Ireland. A French filmmaker seeking peace, far from the bustle of Paris. And then, violence. On the morning of December 23rd, a neighbor spotted something strange by the gate. At first, she thought it was a bundle of clothes, caught in the frost. But as she slowed her car, she realized the truth. It was a body, face down, barefoot, dressed in her nightclothes. Blood pooled on the frozen ground. The victim's hair was matted, her face unrecognizable. The weapons? Not a gun, not a knife, but a rock, and a concrete block. Her name was Sophie Toscan du Plantier. She was just 39 years old. She had come to this place for solitude, for inspiration. Instead, she met a violent end. The brutality stunned Ireland. This was not a robbery, not a burglary gone wrong. This was something else. Pure rage. And as word spread, the questions began. Why was Sophie outside, alone, in the middle of the night? Did she open the door to someone she trusted? Or did a stranger force her into the darkness? For decades, no one could answer. A suspect was named, tried in one country, cleared in another. 2 nations, 2 verdicts, yet no forensic proof. No DNA, no fingerprints, no confession. The case became one of Europe's darkest mysteries. And Sophie's family was left waiting. Year after year, trial after trial. Still no justice. But nearly 30 years later, everything changed. Investigators announced they had recovered a killer's DNA. Not Sophie's. Not a neighbor's. The killer's. Now the question is this. Will this long-awaited discovery finally expose Sophie's murderer? Or will the truth remain buried forever, hidden in the misty hills of West Cork? To understand this case, you have to understand Sophie. Born Sophie Bagnol in Paris in 1957, she grew up in a cultured French family that valued books, art, and ideas. She was intelligent, independent, creative, a dreamer who loved to write. Friends described her as warm but private, curious but cautious, with a magnetic presence that drew people in. By her late 30s, Sophie had built a career as a television producer in France. She specialized in documentaries on culture and society. Her work was thoughtful, reflective, a window into her curious mind. She had a son, Pierre-Louis, from her first marriage, and in 1991 she remarried. Her new husband was Daniel Toscan du Plantier, a titan of French cinema. Daniel was famous, connected, glamorous. Their marriage linked Sophie to the glittering world of European film. Premieres, Paris galas, dinners with actors and directors. But Sophie was never seduced by the spotlight. If anything, she found it exhausting. She craved quiet, space, a life where she could walk in nature, write in peace, and breathe without the demands of high society. That's why, in 1993, she bought a holiday cottage in Tormore, near Shull, West Cork. A small, whitewashed home perched on the edge of wild Atlantic hills. To Sophie, it was paradise. She would fly from Paris to Cork and drive the winding roads until she reached her retreat. There, she walked the narrow lanes, listened to the sea, filled notebooks with ideas. Locals remembered her as polite but private. She was not fully a tourist, not fully a local. She lived somewhere in between, an outsider, but one who seemed deeply at peace in Ireland's rugged beauty. But what Sophie didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that her sanctuary would one day become the site of her violent death. Friday, December 20th, 1996, arrival. Sophie left Paris, flew into Cork, rented a car, and drove through the winding roads to her cottage. She stopped in town, bought groceries, and smiled at locals. To everyone she encountered, she looked relaxed, content. Nobody could have guessed this would be her last trip. Saturday, December 21st, settling in. She spent the day quietly. She rented a couple of VHS movies. She bought more supplies. That evening, she phoned her husband Daniel back in France. Everything seemed normal, calm. Sunday, December 22nd, the final day. That morning, Sophie went for a walk through the countryside. She loved to wander those quiet lanes. Later that evening, around 11 p.m., she phoned a close friend in Paris. She told her she was nearly ready to return to France, but wanted one more day in Ireland. It was the last phone call she ever made. Monday, December 23rd, discovery. The following morning, neighbor Shirley Foster drove past Sophie's lane. The frost was heavy. The air was sharp. And then she saw it. A body, lying by the gate. At first, Shirley thought it was a mannequin. But as she drew closer, the truth became horrifyingly clear. It was Sophie. Her body was sprawled in the grass. Her dressing gown torn. Her nightclothes stained with blood. She had run barefoot into the cold. A trail of blood marked her desperate attempt to escape. She didn't make it. Her skull had been crushed. Her face obliterated beyond recognition. A rock and a concrete block lay nearby, soaked with blood. This wasn't a quick killing. This wasn't theft. This wasn't random. This was rage. Personal, violent, relentless rage. And from that moment, nothing in West Cork would ever be the same. The Gardaí, Ireland's police force, launched their inquiry. But almost immediately, mistakes were made. The crime scene was not properly sealed off. Locals wandered too close. Curious neighbors approached before forensic teams were finished. Evidence may have been contaminated. Theories swirled. Was it a burglary gone wrong? A jealous lover? A random stranger? But suspicion soon focused on one man, Ian Bailey, a British journalist living nearby with his partner, Jules Thomas. He was eccentric, volatile, known in town for his drinking and abrasive personality. Bailey was also one of the first reporters to write about Sophie's death. But locals noticed something strange. He seemed to know details before they were public. And then there were the scratches. Witnesses saw Bailey with scratches on his hands and arms the day after Sophie was killed. He explained them away. Cutting down a Christmas tree, he said. But many found that hard to believe. There were rumors, too. Bailey had allegedly confessed while drunk. His partner accused him of violence at home, though later she retracted. The Gardaí questioned him repeatedly. But there was a problem. No DNA, no fingerprints, no blood. Nothing physical tied Ian Bailey to Sophie's murder. And so Ireland never charged him. But France? France refused to let go. In 2019, more than 20 years after Sophie's death, a French court tried Bailey in absentia. They convicted him, sentenced him to 25 years in prison. But Ireland refused to extradite him. And so, Ian Bailey lived the rest of his life in limbo, guilty in France, uncharged in Ireland. Until his death in 2024, Bailey maintained his innocence. But was he lying? Or was he, as he claimed, the perfect scapegoat? For years, two competing narratives dominated the case. Theory 1. Ian Bailey was guilty. He had the scratches. He allegedly confessed while drunk. He made dark comments about violence. To many, especially in France, the case seemed clear. Theory 2. Ian Bailey was innocent. There was no forensic evidence, no fingerprints, no DNA. Gardaí were accused of tunnel vision, focusing too much on Bailey while ignoring other suspects. Bailey himself insisted he was targeted unfairly. But then came another twist. In 2011, French forensic experts tested Sophie's boots. They found alien DNA belonging to no one in the known case file. Not Sophie, not Bailey, not any neighbor. So who did it belong to? Why was Sophie outside in the freezing night? Did she hear a noise? Did she open the door to someone she trusted? Why was the attack so brutal? This wasn't a clean or calculated murder. This was fury and the alien DNA. Why was it never explained? Could it be linked to the DNA breakthrough found in 2025? So many questions, so few answers. In 2022, Ireland's Serious Crime Review team reopened the case. They turned to modern forensic science. The bloodstained rock, the concrete block, Sophie's clothes, her boots. Using cutting-edge DNA vacuum technology, Scientists extracted microscopic traces missed for decades. And in 2025 came the announcement. They had found it. A killer's DNA. Not Sophie's. Not Bailey's. Not a neighbor's. The killer's. For Sophie's son, Pierre Louis, this was hope. For West Cork, it was a chance at closure. But the question remains, will the DNA confirm Ian Bailey as the killer? Or will it point to someone no one ever suspected? After 30 years of shadow and doubt, the truth may finally be revealed. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Cold Case Chronicles. What do you think? Was Ian Bailey guilty all along? Or will the DNA prove this case was far more complex than anyone imagined? Drop your thoughts and start a conversation in the comments down below. And don't forget to subscribe and give a like to listen to more contents like this. Until next time, keep questioning, keep searching, and join us again as we shine a light on the darkest unsolved crimes.